Here's Angela and me at two different shows. The one on the left, way back when, and when I could still fit into my sports coat. And then on the right is the most recent show in February, and you can see that I'm the one who aged. Now these are early works. The little Indian boy in the middle I did way back in the 70s when I was doing oil paintings and selling them in Taos, Mexico. And the other two paintings are studies that I still have. I did them for myself. So you see a Rembrandt self-portrait on the right, and then on the left is a more recent painting. And being able to do those oil paintings is what taught me how to mix colors. Now here's Katrina in progress, and this is day number 2. And you can see the line drawing, the drip drawing that I did underneath. Day number 2, I put 2 complementary colors on there and sprayed them with water to bleed them out, get rid of the white of the canvas. And then you will see something about 2 or 3 days later coming up. This one still has some wet in wet. That's what I call it when I spray water on them to make the lines thicker. But notice the blue lines, they're very thin. Now I'm dripping thin lines on there, and I will do 9 colors a day for about 30 days to develop this painting. So we're jumping about 5 days every slide here. So on the next one, you'll see quite a bit of development. It's almost looking like a finished painting, but actually it's not. You know, right here in front of me, if I was working on it, I would still see gaps between the drips, the lines, and stuff like that. But quite a bit of buildup of color here. And I'm also showing light versus dark sides of the face. Now see how the darkness in her eye sockets have lightened up a little bit? What I did here is I tried to lose the painting a little bit by putting the lighter colors in the dark areas and vice versa, so that it evened out, and that's actually helps me build up more and more color. And then the next one also will look a lot more developed, because now I'm bringing the image back. See, so now the black accents are under the eyelids and down the center of the mouth and things like that, but they're almost too strong of black. So the next 2 slides will show how I will soften the painting up and getting close to the finished product. Katrina in process again, only this is a different Katrina, the one Katrina with green eyes. And so now you get to see what it looks like on day 1, because I have dripped black lines, a black line drawing onto the canvas that I have to allow to dry for a night before I start flooding it with colors. Next one will show her flooded with some colors. See, and so purple and yellow and green, and I think there was some red, sprayed with water, and the image almost completely disappears, and then overnight when it starts drying, the wet areas dry, and I can see the image again a little bit and keep control. Next day again, some more wet paint, only this time I dripped black in the shadow areas and sprayed it with some water to start filling in some darkness. I should have done the lower right-hand corner there on that day too. I had to come back and fill that in. And then you're seeing how the colors are beginning to develop, but far from finished. This is probably only a third of the way done. But now her green eyes are filled in, 2 or 3 different values of green. She's 52 inches tall by 45 inches wide. Pretty much the same process, but notice I put blue on the dark side of the face in that triangle of light, Rembrandt light. I started doing what I call the Matisse thing, because Matisse really shook up the world when he started painting paintings like that. The very first one was called The Woman with the Green Side of Her Face. And so that's what I'm doing here. And it makes the paintings more powerful. They really stand out. Going back a few years though, we have Lonnie here. And Lonnie was from a magazine advertisement for jewelry. Obviously you don't see any jewelry, but what I did is I replaced the jewelry with flowers because she reminded me of a Polynesian girl. And it worked out beautifully for a horizontal composition. All right, this particular Lori, I don't think I've had different ones named Lori, but this particular one was inspired by an image of Penelope Cruz. And when I did the full composition that I was trying to do in a horizontal, it wasn't working. And her dark eyes began to disappear. So I gave her green eyes and cropped off the sides of the composition. And so I figured I had to change her name because Penelope Cruz does not have green eyes. All right, so now we're going to go on to Cassandra. Cassandra is from a Russian model from Moscow, and I did not know her name, so I assigned the name Cassandra to her. But that's a beautiful example. If you look at her cheek, lots of colors in there. Kayla is a very large painting. She's still available. And when I learned a long time ago from painting with a portrait artist that when you paint a black person, you have to start increasing the amount of blue and dark reds that you use when you're mixing with oil paints. And again, I did the same concept here to make it work. Dreamer is after that. Dreamer is a subject that I've done many times, and no two are alike. They're never the same. And the beauty of this one is that I can really make it look like the face is just emerging out of the darkness. But look how many colors are in the dark. I mean, just so many, and that's what really shows off my technique. Natalie is new. I've only done 2. One shows the eyes almost looking directly at us, and then this one here, she's looking off to her left or our right. And I put a lot of metallic golds into the dark area here, along with the other colors. And so she's very contemporary looking in person, especially when you get to see the light change around her. And after that, we're going to the paintings I've done as homage to the masters. And so the very first one is of Andy Warhol's Campbell soup can. And so I'm going to hold on to this one for a little bit and tell a little bit of the story of Andy Warhol, because I met him in 1975 when he did his one and only show in Denver. And I got to talk with him for a while and see his show. And it's by looking at his show is when I realized how much creativity can go into taking the same image and painting it over and over and over again, but each one is totally different. So there was 20 Mick Jaggers there out of the 50 that he did, and not one was the same. I just fell in love with them. And then Chairman Mao, and there was one of Nixon with the blue face, and Elvis Presley, and then there were some Marilyns. And that opened up the whole idea that the visual elements, just like colors and line and texture and things like that, all have a hand in creativity. You can paint a portrait and have it be a lot more creative than just a portrait. And that just really opened up the doors for me. And it sold me on pop art. So it was great to meet him. He really inspired me. And then the very next one is sunflowers. And sunflowers is another Vincent one. And that one's available down at Angela's Gallery. It's very large, 72 by 48. And I did not change things much except for to just use my technique to do Vincent's subject. It was a lot of fun to do. And then after Sunflowers is Starry Night. This was probably the most challenging and the most fun to paint. It's very large because I had to make all my drips follow the directions of Vincent's brushstrokes in order for Starry Night to work. And so that meant a lot of reaching out towards the middle of that canvas. So I kind of wore my back muscles out doing that one, but I loved doing that subject. Weeping Woman comes next, so my homage to Picasso. And Picasso taught me a lesson too. This particular painting did. I saw this painting at the Denver Art Museum because the show was traveling through from the Tate Museum in London. And this was part of the collection. That was not a very big painting, but it stole the entire room from several other masters because of the power of color. Everybody just kept walking across the room to that painting. And so I learned the whole concept of wall power. That's what made me start making contrasting colors in the faces. So thanks to the Weeping Woman, I learned another lesson. After that, we have Mona, and this one is called Moonlight Mona, and so she's based on, Da Vinci, another favorite of mine, and but I started doing the Andy Warhol thing. So Moonlight Mona is my blue one. The next one I do, she's going to be green. And I got to come up with a name for a green one. So any suggestions you have would be great. After that, we're doing celebrities. So Andy Warhol painted celebrities, and I kind of felt the need to do the same thing because I'm kind of doing the pop art genre. And so the first is Bob Marley. I did this for my niece and her husband. They wanted a very small painting. And as usual, you can see that my technique looks really different here because of the smallness of the painting. I don't like to work that small. I can't develop the paint the way I want to. And then after that is Marilyn Monroe. And Marilyn Monroe is a very large painting, and as big as Starry Night. And you can see, just look at how the light rolls over her cheekbones, especially on the shadow side. There's a lot of color in that. So it gives me space to really develop things with all these dripped lines and to let people blend the colors with their eyes. Very enjoyable painting to do. And then we have one of my Einsteins, I think the most recent one coming up, and it's a vertical format. blue side of the face, new thing going on. And again, the hair gives me a lot of interesting, contrasting things to do in the face. All my other Einsteins are horizontal. And then we have a large painting called Jean Tierney. Now, Jean Tierney was a actress from the 1940s, one of the lucky ones to have a photographer who knew what he or she was doing, and got Rembrandt light on her face. And there's at least a dozen really good photographs of her to paint from. So she's a favorite subject. Aretha Franklin is after that. And music stars are not easy to do because they have too many paintings that, photographs that are them in a distance on a stage. But this one worked. This one became one of my favorite subjects to do. So I've done her twice and I really like it. Lots of freedom to paint in the darkness there. And then after Aretha is Audrey. That's Audrey Hepburn. This is the only image that has any serious value changes in her face that allows me to, develop the portrait and do contrasting colors in the background and things like that. All the other photographs of her are whited out. Too much light on her face in her photographs. Michelle Obama comes up next, and I did a painting of her and also President Barack Obama, both the same size. They were sold together, and the very strong Matisse effect of rich, warm colors on one side of the face and then blues and greens on the other really makes the painting pop. You will notice that I used his poster image when he was running for president for that because I really liked the look on his face. In the middle is the magazine cover for Michelle. They did a Condé Nast Publishers did a special edition magazine in 2018, and Michelle's the painting I did of her is on page 58, and it was the question and answer section. All right, so symbols is another pop art thing, and so naturally flags, American flag will be among those. Jasper Johns did American flags. A lot of the pop artists did. And look how many colors I have in a red stripe. That was the challenge. Have it show up as a red stripe with a lot of different colors, and same with the white ones. And so, as it turns out, my technique worked pretty well for doing those kinds of pop art pieces. Then you see the side view of the flag. You can see how the stripes wrap around the side, and on this painting in the foreground, my colors also wrap around the side of that painting. Nobody has to buy a frame for these large paintings because I do finish off the edges. One of my flower paintings is called Johnny Jumper, and in Johnny Jumper you will see that I got to do what I do with faces. I got to show the color and value changes in a flower instead of treating it like a flat graphic image. Very fun to do. Then see how the colors change on going down into the center of the flower. We the People follows that, and that's a monumental flag, 12 feet long by I think 8 feet tall. It's got 16 different canvases in it, so whoever owns that gets to change the arrangement of canvases any way they want to. It allows for creative hanging. To give you an idea of the scale, the huge scale of it, I did not paint it this way though. I just put it together so for this photograph, because I could only paint about 3 pieces at a time. So I was constantly shifting them around to do this painting. Very fun process. and fun for the owners of that painting. Then places. Now, there's not a whole lot of places that I have painted, but they're special because the idea of painting a particular place is that it's kind of a recognizable place. And I like visiting City Park in New Orleans where all these grand oak trees are. And so in this one here, you can see how much the black armature of the tree helps me compose the painting and allows me to put a lot of color into the dark areas. But look at the little red spot down there in the center of the painting. That's actually a sports car parked on the road in the park. Brooklyn Bridge. Now, the Brooklyn Bridge is a great symbol to paint. And if you were to visit a website of the Brooklyn Bridge, you would see that the majority of the pictures of it would not make a great painting. This one was perfect, so this is the one that I do. I get to have that sunset behind it and then throw a lot of color into the dark image of the bridge and do the water, so it has the effect that I want to get. Superheroes. Again, going back to the pop art themes. And so Wonder Woman is the first one here. And very popular. I like the idea of a woman superhero. And following her is Batman. And Batman's in a private collection. And like Andy Warhol and the pop artists from Britain that came just a bit before him, they were all doing Superman because they were inspired by the graphic designs in comic books for the superheroes. All those drawings and paintings for the comic books have great action and composition to them. So that's part of the reason why they were so inspiring to the pop artists. And following that is the Captain's Shield, because we have to have something about Captain America. He's us. But notice here, I put a highlight on the upper right and some shadow in the lower left because the Captain's Shield is not flat. And I wanted to make sure that it wasn't looking just like a flat graphic design. Okay, so and then there's the wall shot and in the gallery, so you get to see them side by side with the American flag further down. That was a very powerful wall in that show. Very fun to walk into the gallery and see that. All right, then after that, I had to do a few portraits of well-known artists, my favorite artists. That's one of the reasons I choose who I choose. And so the first one is Andy Warhol with a hot red background. I've done a few of him, and every single one of them is different. That's the beauty of this technique. I can never paint two the same, and I think the backgrounds have been a different color just about every time. But it's an exciting image, and Andy Warhol's a good subject because everybody recognizes him when they see him in the painting. The next image is an Andy Warhol in progress on the studio floor, I believe. And notice the photograph sitting on the chair on the left. That's my inspiration. It's black and white, so it has no influence over the colors that I'm introducing. And after that is Salvador Dali, my portrait of him. Another easy face to recognize, especially with the big handlebar mustache and his wild eyes. And that's the first, actually the very first painting where I painted green on one side of the face and with the Matisse effect. And Matisse did the woman with the green face, and it kind of floored Picasso. when they were putting these two paintings in the show, and Picasso took his home because he thought Matisse outdid him. So, give you an idea how they affected each other. All right, so then after that is Leonardo's self-portrait. And again, he's one of my favorite guys, and so I had to do his portrait. He did this self-portrait in Conti crayon, so it was just kind of a reddish colored drawing. And it left me with the freedom to put as much color in there as I wanted to. I just got the image started and just started applying color in a very directional way. She's a very popular subject. Lots of people love her, including me, at her work. And what I liked about Frida Kahlo is that what I learned about her is that the more pain she was in, because she had this horrible accident when she was young, the more pain she was in, the more color she would wear. Flowers in her hair, all kinds of stuff. And they become great paintings. All right, so this is the photograph that I'm working from. This is day number 3 or 4. Lots of wet in, wet painting. Then you'll see it develop a little bit more 2 or 3 days later. See how that looks. And see, so now the light and shade is beginning to happen. But it's, like her right eye is not looking quite right because of the dark shadow I have underneath, and it makes her eye look bigger than it's supposed to. That makes it a little bit better. I did some dripping on it yesterday, so it looks even better now. So now you see an image of me again from way back when. We put this one in so that you could see my painting tools, which are just stir sticks, and they work better. I tried brushes, I tried branches and things like that, and actually the best painting tool is those free stir sticks that you get at paint stores. My idea to paint this way came from assignments I was giving my advanced drawing students to do portraits by doing nothing but scribbling. And it was a very popular assignment, and it started occurring to me, if I could find a way to scribble with paint, I could start a whole new series of paintings, which I started doing around 2000.